Content is not that you're doing one article and you leave and that's it and you get all the leads in the world. You need to generate content consistently every month, generate 2 pieces, 4 pieces, 8 pieces, 20 blogs, one white paper, but every month, every quarter, like a mantra.
Welcome to the DevRelX podcast, the podcast brought to you from the DevRelX community and /data. This podcast is devoted to developer marketing, relations, and advocacy. I'm Stathis Georgakopoulos, and I'm your host. In each episode, we welcome a guest from the developer marketing world to talk about best practices, lessons learned, how-tos, data, and share insights and experiences to help you boost your DevRel game and win developers' hearts. You can find more people like you and resources, developer ecosystem data, news, jobs, and a bi-weekly digest at devrelx.com.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the DevRelX podcast. Today we will be talking about content. But before we jump in, I want to let you all know that our State of the Developer Nation report is out and you can access it for free. In this latest edition, we'll look at what has changed in the developer world. We'll talk about low-code, no-code, how developers in China and East Asia are different, and a lot more topics. You can download it by following the link on the episode description. Now, let me welcome today's guest, Ofir Nachmani, who is the CEO of I Am On Demand, or IOD for short. Ofir, welcome to the show.
Hi, Stathis. Thank you very much for inviting me.
It's great having you. Let's get to know you a bit. So, as a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Yeah, it's a great question to start with. Basically, I think, I want to be rich, but in order for you to be successful or you need to build things, you need to change worlds, right? You need to create new things. And mainly I think that what I see today, I grown up to see pain points in the industry that I'm playing in. We will talk about this is my fifth company over the last 20 years. And I'm always trying to, to find the pains, to find the challenges that the people within an industry or within a market experience. And then you try to build things or create things to fix and to help them fix the things. And of course, this can make you rich.
Some kids want to be, astronauts, doctors. You set the goal, I want to be rich, and I'll figure it out. Wow, really cool. That's a very growth.
Yeah, it's a very kind of a statement, but people will think about that like I want to have money, right? It's not about having money. It's about really building things and solving people's problem in industries that we are playing in. And this is what basically we will talk about this in this session with you about solving these content marketing issues that tech brands experience for a few decades right now.
Yeah, thank you for teasing our listeners, but we're still trying to get to know you. So, want to tell us a bit more about yourself? Your journey. What has your journey been like? From a kid that wants to be rich, from being a blogger in the tech world, and eventually the CEO of IOD.
Yeah. So basically, I entered the world of technology. I was in university and I learned, computer communications. It was like 15 years ago. And when I went out, I said, I want to do something. I want to build something, right? I want to build something. I want to build a company. I want to build technology. I want to see what the world needs. And one of the things over the course of the years of running a company that actually did the smart scheduling for large workforce, like for example, oil and gas companies, they have their, contractors that goes around the world and fix the thing, and you need to schedule the thing. So I build a company or a technology that help them to schedule, the workforce. And eventually, the world changed from taking a technology in-house, on-prem in your data center to take it outside to a software as a service option. In 2005, we started building a software as a service, and it was very, very early stage. For that matter, trying to pitch investors that we are going to sell a license for $100 per user was very hard. After 4 years, we were acquired, and the company that acquired the company that I built together with my partner was interested in actually building a SaaS offering for themselves. And one of the things that they try to do is to start running on the cloud. What it means start running on the cloud, taking resources or compute and storage network from an outside vendor, for that matter, Amazon, AWS. So I started to use AWS in 2008, 2009, using S3 and all of that. And one of the things that was interesting to me, or was part of my goals, was to share the knowledge. The company will acquired us, and then they want to use your product. They want to learn who you are. So you need to, as someone who just got into a new company, you want to help them and educate them on what it means cloud, what it means to use Amazon, AWS, what it means to run storage on S3, what it means to secure the environment, what it means to sell such a service, and what it means to sell a SaaS, software as a service solution on the web. And for that matter, I use the SharePoint, but the SharePoint, to say it simple, sucks. And so I started to use Tumblr, which was a micro-blogging platform. Still, I think, a blogging platform. And I just, put their presentations and and generate some text there. And in the SharePoint, they put links to the Tumblr. I didn't realize that the Tumblr is public. Everybody can go in and learn about AWS and learn about the cloud and learn about how you sell a SaaS solution. My English, I'm not a native English, so the English wasn't good, but still people start to come to this website that eventually I understood that it's a blog, and it was an accident. I'm a blogger by an accident, sort of saying. And I hope it makes sense,
It's a happy accident.
Yeah, it was interesting to see how VMware and HP, Harold Picard, reaching out to me on an email saying, we want to invite you to our roundtable in Houston, or we want to invite you to be a blogger in HP Discovery. You came, you're fully sponsored. You get, all the benefits, they're very much spoiling you being on the first row of every, large keynote because you're a blogger and you're an influencer. And I realized that, and I, started to run my Twitter account and started to get connections on LinkedIn. And, today I can proceed as an influencer, with almost 20,000 followers on LinkedIn. But then I didn't understand that. And it was interesting to see what content can do, what blogging can do in an environment, which is, I'm a technologist and I'm happy to be a blogger. And then I'm getting all this presence with large vendors, flying me across the world just to hear what I have to say. And of course, leverage my influential, capabilities and leverage my digital presence to of course do the marketing act. So eventually, you get to the point where you understand that you're a blogger in this world, and then you say, okay, so why companies are running, one article per week? And the question came because I became a VP of product marketing at some early stage startup, and I had this consultant who told me you need to publish at least one article a week. But when I was a blogger, if I published one article a day, I got much more traffic, and I got much more attention, and got much more business opportunities. So why, as a brand, you are publishing an article once a week? And as a leader of this blogging act within this small startup, I built an environment that can generate 15 pieces a week. And I did it by actually leveraging understanding that I'm not the one to write the articles first. And the fact that I need to outsource this magazine work basically to freelancers around the globe. Also not just because of the capacity of getting more than one article per week, but also from expertise perspective. I cannot deal with everything around AWS. And that, for that matter, this company that I joined, the startup that I was a VP there, they, we had a solution that did cost optimization and security solution for AWS. It was very early stage. We're talking about 2020, I think it was 2011, 2012. And I had to educate the market for that matter. And I managed to generate a system that can do lots of content on a weekly, monthly basis. The traffic grew like crazy, and I learned so much of doing such a work. And it was always weird to me that small startups don't do that because they don't have the people in place, they don't have the skills in place, they don't have the option to do that, and they don't think about outsourcing that to freelancer in a high scale. Also, when I'm looking also when I look at the big enterprises, IBM and such, I saw that they are using writers, and I didn't understand how a technology vendor or a brand that wants to be a top leader in the world and attract practitioners and experts, how a writer can do a very deep tech, for example, article or a blog post, if they don't have the actual hands-on expert tech skills. And I saw they're a very broken world. The startup cannot generate the capacity that they need in order to generate the scale. And the large brands are using writers to do, fluff articles in an excuse of targeting a C-level persona. What is going on in this world? And when I realized that, I started IOD, my first company. And we can talk about that more, but back to you. I hope the story is interesting and it was clear.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great story because it's funny how work through figuring out gaps and going on to fill them. And of course, it's always a funny and happy accident how a large majority of this started by not realizing that Tumblr was public. So yeah, it's definitely a great story, and we will be talking a lot more about IOD and how you work with content. But first, let's talk a bit about data. So can you please have a look at devrolx.com/trends and tell us what graph stands out to you and why?
So thank you very much for giving me the heads up beforehand, and I actually did it beforehand. So there is the notion, and this is something that actually, push companies to use our services because they realize one thing. Today, the decision maker, there's this marketing, the method of, I'm building my marketing strategy and I need to figure out who is the decision maker, right? Who is, putting their hands into the pocket and, will pull the budget and will do and will make the decision in getting a new cybersecurity solution. Okay. And getting a new tool that we will use for our purposes. And just to make it clear, I'm a bank. I have my tech guys. I have my CIO. Who is the decision making? What is the decision making process? Who are the decision makers? If we will take back, 15 years back, the decision maker will be the CIO. Decision maker will be the CTO. Decision maker will be the big guy that is managing the whole environment. But today, it's totally different. And because technology became I can mention the word consumerization. I can take as a IT consumer, IT services consumer, or IT organization, I can take a cybersecurity solution, try it for a month or two, and leave. I'm not stuck with it. I don't need to buy servers to run it and all of that because it's a SaaS solution and it's a service and I can use it. So I can try a lot of things. There is no lock-in, and I can also, as a C-level persona, I can go to my people and tell them, look for a cybersecurity solution, please. And the practitioner has, or the experienced developer, the experienced tech person, first have a lot to say. They are the one to check the product. They are the one to listen to the environment, to listen to their colleagues, to listen to Twitter and say, listen, I want to try this product. They will go to their C-level, to their boss, and they will tell them, listen, I think we are missing something in our pipeline, in the DevOps pipeline, and I want this tool to help us. I want this cybersecurity tool to fix this point that they see the pain, they see the problem, and they are also proactive enough to say, I want to try that. So basically, we go into what is called bottom-up adoption of technology. It's less about C-level say, hey, let's go and walk and at IBM, they will give us all what we need. No, the practitioner, the expert will go out, will research, will find a cybersecurity tool. They will use it. They will pay for it, even themselves with their own credit card. They will check it out. And if it's something that makes sense to them and works for them, they will go back to their boss and say, listen, we need that. In most cases, their boss will say, I trust you. Let's pay for that. And because the transition cost is relatively to what happened in the past is small, they will try it. So these guys and what I saw in your report, what experienced developers have a bigger say in things. And the case of developer working for large organizations were the most likely to go fully remote during the pandemic. They are doing their work and they are taking decisions from their room at their apartment, and they're taking big decisions that impact the tech brand or the tech solution provider to push and attract them from a marketing perspective. And this takes us back to where we are at the content side of things, generating very deep tech articles because we want to attract these practitioners and support the bottom-up adoption of technology for our customers. That would make sense.
Just have to say, wow, you couldn't have been more articulate. I actually have nothing to add. You said everything. You said from the background to the actual data, to how things are worked. But yeah, I think the bottom up is a huge deal. Things, used to be like someone senior decided this is the tool we're going to use. So, go ahead and use it. But now we can see developers having an actual say or influencing the buying decisions, making this request because they want to do their job effectively, efficiently.
Yeah.
So
there is one more thing just to add to what you are saying. It's very interesting. Is the delegation of the responsibility on the environment to the developer or to the practitioner. Okay, they need it's also on their end. They're not just doing code and at 5 o'clock they're going back home. Okay. Today, they are testing their features. Today, they need to make sure that the developer needs to make sure that the code that they generated is secured enough. They, the DevOps people need to make sure that the production is always running. It's their responsibility. And because of that, they also need to be able to make decisions. And this is where the C-level says, it's on you, man. It's on you.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I just have to quickly say that, what we discussed and what we looked at the data at deverlex.com/trends come from our buying annual developer survey, which is also now live. So for our listeners, if you're a developer or a creator, whether it's just a hobby or a full-time job, we want to hear what you have to say. You go to developernation.net, take the survey, plus there's lots of cool prizes there. And of course, this helps us, understand developers better, create data and content that, is totally relevant. So now let's talk content. So Ofir, why does a B2D business to developer company need a tech content marketing strategy and planning? And also, where and how would you start building such a plan?
Mm-hmm. So it's a trivial question, kind of. If I were to be, someone that knows something about tech marketing, I will say, of course, planning and strategy is important, right? It's obvious, right? But we still see. We have lots of customers around the globe, and now we are every day I'm meeting a new person, a new marketeer, and I still see people that are saying, "Listen, I have this great article that I want to write about." It's mainly, of course, startups, but not just that. Also, enterprises. You get this marketeer, and he's saying, "Listen, my boss is telling me I need an article about Google Cloud." Okay. And then I'm taking them back to planning, because there is this notion that content is in quotes easy to do, very quick. I can generate an article and in a week I will have it done and published, and that's it. And I can generate lots of that. And topics are, it doesn't go like that. In the world of what we call expert-based content, things takes time. And generating content or generating an article that talks about the 5 best features of the last release of Kubernetes, for that matter, requires a research. And research in technology takes time. A research can take months or even, in a pace of a year to get to something. In content, it's not this is the case, but if you want to do benchmarking and showcase your product against your competition, it's a research that can take 3 months, and then the marketing come into play. So you need to plan all of that. You need to understand what that you want to say to the world. And we need to differ between marketing strategy and content strategy. Marketing strategy, you define your persona, who you target. You target a developer or you target a cybersecurity researcher as a tech brand, right? You want to target your people that you want to sell to. And once you have, the marketing strategy in place and the SEO guidelines, I want to get to be the best in the first pages of Google when the term cloud security is mentioned. Okay. Once you have these guidelines, then you can go and say, I want to know which topics or which articles or which content pieces I want to share with the world, whether it's an infographic or a video or an audio or even small blog post. And then you need to think about your idea. I have this customer every three new opportunities or customers that comes and work with us. This marketeer will come, professional marketeer will come. I said, my CTO has a great idea. And then the question is, okay, I love your CTO and I love his great idea, but does your audience love his idea? And this is the case. The case is that I have great ideas and I have great creativity within, my R&D team and within my, organization. But do I really know as a marketeer that the outside target audience will love my idea? And to be able to come with a great strategy or planning of the editorial, right? All the topics or all the titles that you want to be published for the next 3 months, what they will be, you need to count from 2 points, from 2 points of view. One is your internal creativity. Yes, you need to listen to your CTO. Yes, you need to get from their ideas and what they think about, the audience and what the audience will want to read about. But on the other side, and sometimes, marketeers are still missing that, to look at a trend, right? Look what was the best article on your competitor website over the last 6 months or a year. And then the mix between my internal creativity and my internal concepts that I'm coming with, and I want to write about them, to what the trend outside, what the audience wants to listen, together will, if you bring them both to the same table, and a good marketeer, a good tech marketeer who knows the technology and knows everything, and it's very hard to find such people, can take that and do a mix and generate a list of topics or a strategy, including the pillars of content that you want to focus on. A pillar means, like, for example, cloud security, which is like a group of articles. For that matter, if you want to define all of these, you need to have these both sides. Just as a practical tip for the ones who are listening right now, we are using tools like BuzzSumo, who is doing trend analysis or content discovery within the social, and we can see for our customers, we can monitor the great content outside that got the audience traction, and we suggest our customers to do the same content, in quotes, but better or with a different angle that suits what they want to achieve with attracting this audience. So basically, if to end up, this answer, I will say, one, unleash your internal creativity, but mix it with what you see outside with the trends and try to come up with a strategy that fits, mostly, the audience that you want to reach out. That's it.
Yeah. I kept nodding as you were actually. I also work a lot with content, and I really, believe in the power of content. And just like to point out, 2 things you mentioned, and on one of them, I want to know more. The first thing is that, obviously writing a few paragraphs text is not much work, right? As you said, but the point is, what is that content going to serve? What is the purpose? So this is what stood out to me, that you could write like the top 5 features. Obviously, you need to do a lot of research, because You do not just want to fill out, internet space or blog. You want what you write to be helpful and obviously to attract attention to your product, right? So this is one thing. And the other thing is that a lot of times I've also seen it, and I have like numerous examples of it, that we look at it from the perspective of, the product owner, let's say. This takes into account, all the things you already know about the product, but you don't always see it from the user's perspective, right? So this could be a great idea, yes, if someone already knows for our product as much as we do. Now, is this the purpose we're trying to serve? Or do we need to approach it from a perspective that it will be useful, knowledgeable, informative to the user that will read it, or someone who will come across this and it's new to them? So this is where I really want to, know more about, especially because, B2D audience is a very technical audience, an audience with a lot of knowledge. And, if I may say, they can detect crappy content or, empty words from a mile away.
Yeah.
So my question is, how do you create tech content that developers will like and they will engage with? So what I need is your tips to your B2D marketer creating content.
So before answering your question, you mentioned that you cannot fool this audience. You just can't. And it's more than that. If you are generating an article that is like, what we say fluff, right? As you said, they will see it from, 100 miles and they will stop reading it after two sentences. But they will not just leave your website. Developers today know that 50% at least of their work is research. And if you waste their time with fluff, they will spend their time notifying their colleagues that this article is fluff and don't get near to this brand. So it's not just that they are leaving your articles and that's it, and the bounce rate of this article goes up, but they will, do it will do a very bad marketing to your brand. But to your question about, how to create such a piece and what the purpose of the piece. So let's talk about, let's stay for a second on the strategy side, and let's say what content we want to generate and at which stage of the company and the audience. What it means. For example, you're just starting with a new product. Let's take an enterprise. And a big enterprise wants to get into the DevOps world. Okay. There are, for a long time, they are doing, network solutions in the traditional world, or they're doing some IT solutions in data centers in the traditional world, and they want to go into the DevOps, automation, gig, whatever world that, that is currently, this is the hype, right? They need to start generating traction within this audience. And to do that, you cannot talk about your product. You need to, what we call top of the funnel content. You need to start generating content that is more like broad, very technical, but broad. For example, if there is a very popular open source that is relevant for your audience and also relevant for your, marketing strategy, then you need to start covering it. For example, Jenkins, a very popular tool. I can start writing guides and explanations and cover this specific world of Jenkins. It needs to be very, I'm not sure if it's a good example, because Jenkins is very popular. There is, millions of articles about it, but let's say take it as an example. And I want to start targeting audience that talks about Jenkins or read about Jenkins. I will start generating articles about Jenkins, and I will not work or generate articles about my product that is relevant to that matter. Okay. Because no one knows about that. Now you bring the top of the funnel traffic. The next step is what we say, consideration stage. Okay. So the audience at the first stage learned from you about Jenkins, about the, how to do things, and also what are the pain points that you solve, but they didn't still heard about your solution. Now that when they are recognizing the pain points and they see you as a brand in the world of Jenkins, sorry for my example, but this is the example we have right now, they would like to see a solution. And they will try to see what are the solutions in this world. And you need to start generating articles at this stage what we say a versus article. You need to publish articles that does take your product versus other competition, or deal with the options in the market. Okay, if you have a security issue with your Jenkins, and this is what your product does, you need to talk about the security options, how to protect your Jenkins environment for that matter. So you can do best practices and versus articles in order to help them solve this problem. Even do-it-yourself articles that do the job at this stage. Then, when everybody knows about your brand and they know that you are one of the solutions, it's the third stage. The third stage is what we say a converting content. So basically, you need to show off your product and actually do, for example, guides on how to use your product to solve these pains. But then, people really need to know your brand, need to be attached to your brand, understand that you are a solution. And when you publish this article, it basically helps them to understand that you are the one they need. And from this point, they will go to your trial option and sign up for the trial and maybe use your product for the rest, of the next 5 years. But if I need to very quickly capture, the purpose of the content is actually to support the life of your potential customer and customer across the whole, life of them, starting from attracting them with top of the funnel, give them an option or a solution, even do it yourself, then show off your product. And even if they are your customer, you want to continue and retain them with content that will make them still feel that you are a leader, you are a thought leader, in this world, and they can continue on trusting you and trusting your product. This is one side of the story. After yours, any questions?
No, I mean, for me, it's what you just said exactly shows why you need a content strategy, right? Because you're taking customers step by step. You're taking it, by the hand, if I may. Explaining what this is, what the industry will looks like. Pros, cons, different things to consider, and then slowly leading them, to your product and how, the types of problems this product solves for whatever works in the industry.
So exactly, and to add just one more thing very quickly is that sometimes you mentioned trends. Sometimes when I'm writing articles that start with Gartner says that the world of cybersecurity and DevOps will grow by 30% in the next quarter. I'm as a developer, I'm getting uncomfortable with the sentence, and I will just close the current tab. Okay? When you are targeting tech people, target them with deep tech content that is based on expertise. And this is what I said right now. It's obvious, but because it's very hard to generate such a content, marketeers are doing the mistake and going back to do this. Gartner says articles, and this is a very, very important tip, maybe the tip of this session, of this podcast right now. A deep tech articles to support the traction of the developer and generate this bottom-up adoption that you are looking for.
Yeah, exactly. I totally see your point. And you just mentioned it, and you mentioned it in the beginning that creating good content is a challenge, right? So can you share some best practices for building a tech content production machine? IoD, I know IoD is one, but if someone wants some in-house help or approach the subject on creating relevant content, but on a steady basis, what are your best practices for it?
Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of best practices. And there is a lot, God in detail. So there is a lot of things that you need to know. But let me try to maybe to package it in a very quick way for people that are listening right now. First, the base of the content generation or the production or the some people says that we are a factory of content. The factory of content needs to be based on real knowledge, real experience. So first, A writer is important, but where is the expert? And where is the researcher in this production? Okay. This is the first thing that you need to think about. The second thing that you need to think about is that, and this is always a problem with the marketeers or people still think about, I need someone who will create an article. It is never one person. It is always a teamwork. And you can see them going to a writer and failing, and then going to an expert, some small blogger that they found, and they're failing because the English is not well enough. Um, Eventually, if people understand that this is teamwork and they understand what are the skills required, then they will be able to separate duties and generate a production that is solid, right? The Toyota case, right? You build that, and then the next step you do that, and then the next step you do that. This is exactly the case. And the skill that you need in order to build such a production team is starting from three. And this is very, and again, there are things that are in the heart of IoT, and I think that needs to be in the heart of every production team of content, specifically for marketing. One is the expert that has the knowledge and the experience. Second is the writer who knows how to write. And the third is the editor, because an editor is a different skill than a writer. Lots of marketeers doesn't understand that or realize that or recognize that. Once you have these three skills, but real skills, not a writer that is happen to be someone who knows about cybersecurity because they write about cybersecurity. No, an expert that deal with cybersecurity, a writer that knows how to write for cybersecurity audience, and an editor who knows the lingo. Once you have these three skills, and in IoD, we separate them also as people, like expert is an expert, a writer is an writer, an editor is an editor, and there is no expert writer or an expert people, then you have everything that you need to generate any piece of content, whether it's high level for C-level and writer can do it with an editor, or whether it's a very deep tech article that an expert needs to generate the first draft, because there is scripts and there is a snippet of code that needs to be done. So these are three skills, but it's not just that. The team needs to also have a production manager, someone who knows when an article starts and ends. So we talked about the need for expertise. We talked about the notion of a team, and there are much more than that when it comes to best practices. For example, okay, I don't think that people are still doing it today. We are a company that generates content, so this is in our heart of the business to monitor the production timeline. How much time takes to generate an article from today if you start with a topic, when it will be released? In 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, in a month, or 2 months? Marketers comes to us and say, listen, I can do this article in a week. Why it takes you a month? If they will start measuring, they will find that it takes them more than what the perception in their mind is. It takes more time because it's a team effort. It takes more time because it's a research base, because it's an expert base, because people needs more time because they have other things to do. Specifically, if you are using your internal experts, which can be a button. And one more thing that I will say from a best practice perspective is the hybrid approach. Okay. And of course, I'm promoting my services, but I really believe in it. Okay. You need to generate content in-house. Your CTO or CEO needs to allocate the time for the rest of their life and on a monthly basis and generate a draft that an editor can come fix or work with a writer to generate an article. And this is what I say in-house. But you also need to take content from outside. And this will help a marketeer or help a tech brand to establish a production line that is predictable, that is sustainable, and that is recurring. Okay? Content is not that you're doing one article and you leave and that's it and you get all the leads in the world. You need to generate content consistently every month, generate 2 pieces, 4 pieces, 8 pieces, 20 blogs, 1 white paper, but every month, every quarter, like a mantra. You need to rely on several sources within your company, outside of your company, and run that in a way that you know that next month, next quarter, you will have the same capacity at least, and you can grow it when time comes. And this is very, very important. And not try that with a single writer that you brought in-house or a single freelancer that right now not answering your calls. There are more best practices and there are more specific details, but I don't think that we have the time to go into every detail in this call.
Yeah, I really wish we could, because as you were talking,
Mhm.
I kept notes for myself too. So, I'm sure there are people out there that want to hear more from you. And if so, how can they reach you?
If they want to reach out to me, they can just go to www.iamondemand.com and just or look at LinkedIn for Ofir Nachmani. I assume you will have it in the description of the podcast. And feel free to reach out directly. We are very responsive. We'll be happy to help.
Perfect. I will make sure to add it. And, to close on a positive note, what are you watching or, reading right now that got you excited?
Besides the We Crashed, the series, you heard about the series We Crashed?
I'm sorry, which series?
You heard about We Crashed, like the story about WeWork. This is some, just an anecdote. You haven't? Check it out. But in the context of what we are talking about, right now, what is interesting to me is mostly the case of the movement of market because IoT is evolved into the world of marketplaces. We have 500 freelancers, talents, experts, writers, editors in the world of technology, cloud, DevOps, cybersecurity. We are kind of on the verge to become a marketplace, basically. And there is this notion of, and this is what I'm researching today for our own business, which is very interesting, is how the gig marketplace, like the Fiverr, you can buy a logo for $50, how this is evolved into the world of talent marketplace or even knowledge marketplace. In the past, there was this notion of people saying, listen, they have 200,000 people in their marketplace. And it's a very big marketplace. Today, with some other marketeers or even R&D organizations do not look for such environments where there is a very big pool of people and they need to find the right person and it takes them forever, and eventually they leave them with just one logo. They are looking for talents, and they're looking for talents that will help them and solve their problem for a long time, where there is a learning curve, and actually outsourcing the work to talents outside that will run with them for years. And this is what we are doing. Like, we give our customer a talent, whether it's an expert or a writer that has a vast experience, and they learn the customer and they become part of the team of this customer, although they are freelancers. That would make sense.
Yeah,
Like that.
that's very interesting. I hadn't really thought about it, but by going online, here and there, I could see that there's differences and that there's, things have been changing. So it's very interesting to hear from you. So Ofir, thank you very much for joining us. It's been great having you on the podcast.
Thank you very much, Savis. It was beautiful. Thank you very much for Slash Data for inviting me in and for our partnership. And I'll be looking forward to hear this podcast and, of course, talk again in the future whenever we want to.
Oh, we'll definitely be talking again, but let's not keep our listeners in this discussion for now. So thank you for listening to the DevRelX podcast, the podcast devoted to developer marketing and relations. You can listen to all episodes, find free resources, the latest news, and join our community at devrelx.com. And you can always subscribe to our bite-sized bi-weekly digest or follow us on Twitter at /DataHQ. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to our listeners.